Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining me again on this week-long journey to discover more deeply what it looks like to understand what a blessed life is, found in the Beatitudes of Matthew chapter 5, when Jesus gives off about 9 blessed statements that seem very countercultural to a lot of what we see in society. A lifestyle that is joyful and fulfilling, that is indestructible and inexhaustible by anything that the world can do. So with that in mind, I'd love to jump right into today's Beatitude. But first, remember to remain poor in spirit. And with that, that means to remain dependent on God in all that we do. Because it's really hard to live out the rest of the Beatitudes until we first look back to that first Beatitude of remaining poor in spirit. Today's Beatitude is found in Matthew chapter 5, verse 8, where it said, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God." The word peace for peacemakers there is the Greek word erenepoios, which means someone who actively resolves and creates peace amongst individual people, but also amongst nations. And what's really cool about this word is it's actually the only time this word specifically shows up in the entirety of Scripture. And the idea of this passage is actually in opposition to the religious zealots who used violence and war as a means to create peace for the Jewish people. That Jesus seems to be flipping that on its head and saying, no, you will be known as the children of God by the way that you act in a peaceful way. We see this because sin has created so much division amongst people that God is actually calling people back to a peaceful lifestyle. That they will be known as God's sons or children within this, because when they're acting in a way that creates peace, they are actually directly reflecting the very character of God. Now hold on, Capsner. You're probably wondering, his first 3 videos were one take, minimal effort. What happened here? Well, let me tell you. My roommate Matt, he's a media major and he really wanted to help, and I wasn't going to turn him down. So this video is just ridiculously high quality for absolutely no reason. One story that's taught pretty often within churches is the church traditional story of Saint Telemachus. And this, I think, is a very good story to show exactly how we are called to create peace. Telemachus was a monk in Asia who had traveled to Rome just to make missions for the gospel. And while he was in Rome, he went to the gladiatorial games. And while he was seeing this, he saw the bloodbath between gladiators as they were killing one another. And knowing the immense value that humans have, he knew he had to do something about it. And so Telemachus runs down and he jumps into the Colosseum. He runs out to the 2 gladiators and he puts his hands out on each side, standing between them. And he says over and over and over, "In the name of Christ, stop." Now, the crowd at first thought this was to rile them up or get them more excited, and so they start, getting excited and louder about this. But once they realize that Telemachus is actually trying to stop the gladiatorial fight, they quickly shift on him, and they start booing him, hoping that, that his life will somehow end, or that they could get back to the gladiatorial games. And so they actually start to begin shouting, "Run him through, run him through, run him through." And one of the gladiators takes their swords and they run him through with their sword. And as Telemachus is giving his final breaths on the ground in the gladiatorial Colosseum, his last words are, "In the name of Christ, stop." Now, this word eventually came to the emperor, and there had been many attempts to stop the gladiatorial games before, but it was not until the word of Telemachus going to the emperor that the gladiatorial games actually stopped. You see, Telemachus didn't just see peace or see division amongst people and do nothing about it. No, he acted in a way that would create peace, even at the cost of his life, because he knew that something could change by his action. He wasn't just willing to stand by, he was willing to actually get his hands dirty and do something about it. And that is the very reason that we can live today and we don't have the gladiatorial games. So Telemachus is actually doing perfectly what we see in this. He is directly reflecting the character of God by showing the value of humans and breaking down the boundaries that sin has created amongst all of us. And he's working to create peace. Notice that Jesus says it's peacemakers, not peacekeepers. It's not people who simply keep peace that's already existing, but they see things that aren't peace already and they work to create it. And so an application that I would love for you guys to try and incorporate throughout this week is to find one area of conflict in your life, because we all have so many areas of that. And first of all, understand that creating peace is not the absence of conflict, but it's more so the absence of boundaries. And so it's removing every boundary that sin has created and working to have a unified connection with those around us. And so I'd love to challenge you just find one conflict in your life this week and work to create peace in that situation, because you are directly reflecting the character of God, and in that you can be seen as a child of God.